Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the Australian thriller Watch the Sunset. And this is from writers Renee Zeller, Tristan Barr, and Michael Godsen. And Tristan Barr and Michael Godsen directed it, and they all star in it, and everybody's involved in so many different ways. And the biggest thing that you'll probably realize about this film is this was shot on one shot. This is like an hour and 18-minute thriller, and it's all in one take. Or at least seemingly so. I'm guessing, maybe, that's very difficult to do. But this film really centers around that one shot taking place during one afternoon of this man who is trying to put his bad past behind him. Danny, and you see him with this really drugged out woman at the beginning of the film, and he's like hiding her, and then he tries to go find his like ex-wife, ex-lover, Sally, who they have a child together, and he finds her singing in a church, which is very moving and obviously very symbolic of like she's trying to put that stuff behind her, she's moved on, she's found faith, and he comes right in there and she has to go running trying to get their child, get away from him, and then their child gets kidnapped by her brother, and they're not into some good things. And then things go from there. And in general, this film is a pretty standard crime thriller story. There's not a whole lot of twists and turns. You've seen this kind of story before. Man tries to get out of the things. People won't let him go, come after his family, kidnap his family. All that fun stuff. It's pretty standard affair. But what this film is able to do is like really capitalize on that camera work. There's definitely some iffy sound mixing and editing. You can definitely tell like maybe the microphones are pretty far away when they're trying to do all this camera work, because you feel that like you could hear the distance in a lot of the dialogue. And you have some solid themes here of like, you know, the consequences of your actions, and can you outrun them? Will they come back for you? Also redemption. It's like, do we deserve redemption when we've been involved in something bad and trying to just put it behind us and move on with our lives? And this film focuses on that in a pretty decent way. I think the biggest thing here, and like the characters don't have a ton of depth, they're not particularly memorable or interesting, but you feel for especially Sally, and Renee Zeller gives a fantastic performance in this film. I was really impressed because she gives there's a lot of shots of like just faces, and especially her, there's two times where there's a lot of reaction shots, because like Danny's trying to plead his case in the car earlier in the film, and the camera is set up like this. Sally's in the forefront and Danny's in the back, and you can see how Sally is reacting to all of these comments that he's making, and Zeller does a fantastic job of balancing like the upset, trying to push this man away, but you know, being tempted a little bit by his charm, and you can tell why maybe she was charmed by him in the first place. And then there's a very harrowing shot towards the end of the film. There's something intense going on in the background, but you have Zeller trying to calm down their child, and like the tears and crying, and her trying to hold things together, doing like the itsy bitsy spider, and just you see so much from Zeller's performance in this film. She's next level. Everybody else is doing a fine job. I think Barr does a fine job as Danny. I don't think he's like a great leading man, and like Godsen's like a henchman guy, and he does his thing in the background. And along with Godsen, you have Shane, the main bad guy, the brother, played by Walton, and you know, they do a fine job here and there. And this film, like I mentioned before, can be really moving at times, and a lot of that is especially with Sally, and also a little bit of Danny towards the end of the film. But I do think this is a really strong effort from this group of filmmakers, and it has a pretty poignant last shot. It really brings into like what the watching the sunset really means, and it's moving. It's really well shot, and it can be very intense at times. And I think this is a solid effort that they do with very little money, as you can see watching this film, and I was pretty impressed. So show this film some love and go check it out. But those are my thoughts on Watch the Sunset. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.